FM W300EB
Macon, and WDDO 980 AM
Perry.
Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
It is now time for the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett, Westbrook, and Mr. Dumas.
Good evening, and welcome to the NAACP's Truth radio show. Today we're going to focus basically on voting because we have an election coming up, a very important election. Now, it's going to be very critical that we get people to the polls. I'm showing that people are getting out. I'm getting numbers every day, showing how many people are actually voting, and it's incredible. We just got to keep on moving on. We got to keep on showing up at the polls. A lot of people are going to early voting, and that is a good thing. Want to try to give you some numbers with the early voting. Here is some information that I have. Okay, they got some information on early voting, and it says, in accordance with the OCGA, notice is hereby given that prior to 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, November the 8th, 2022, the Macon County Board of Elections shall be authorized to open the outer envelope of accepted absentee ballots, remove the contents, including the absentee ballot, and scan the absentee ballot using one or more ballot scanners in accordance to the law, and may continue tabulating until all accepted absentee ballots cast in the central and special election have been counted as prescribed below. It says beginning at 9 a.m. on Friday, November the 4th, from 9 to 5, and Monday, November the 7th, 8:30 to 5:30, and Tuesday, November the 8th, from 8:30 to completion. And so they will start be counting the absentee ballots, and people are showing out in record numbers for the absentee ballot. So we do know that early voting has already begun, and early voting will be through November the 4th. And the election is on November the 8th. So let's just talk about the upcoming election. They did have Saturday voting this weekend, so you were able to vote. If anyone wanted to vote, you were able to vote. Here are some numbers that I have. This is for, let me see here. Okay, these are numbers of the number of people that have voted. And this information is coming from the Board of Election. This was through Saturday, November the 29th. This is from November, let me go back. This is from October the 17th through October the 29th. Again, these numbers from October the 17th through October the 29th. There were 9,812 votes at the Board of Elections at the main office on um, Pinona Avenue. This is early voting. These are the numbers. 9,812 voters have voted at the Board of Elections, the main office. 3,592 people have voted at the Elaine H. Lucas Center. 4,720 people have voted at the Theron Nursery Park. Absentee in person totals is 18,124. And there have been absentee ballots by mail. They have here a total amount, 5,241. Returned, 2,355 have been returned. There have not been any rejected as of so far through the 29th. So people are getting out to vote, and we want to continue to make sure that people get out to vote. We just got to stay on the radio shows. We got to get out in the community as much as we can to promote people to vote. This weekend, we canvassed, the NAACP canvassed, uh, the NAACP Black Voters Matter. We put our information for both organizations to get people out to vote. And in doing so, we talk to people that still have concerns about voting, that basically said that they weren't going to vote. They don't see why they need to vote. And I tell you, it disturbs me so much. These are young people. And a lot of times, you can't, you know, they look at the fact that what's happening now and what they can't see now, but they're not looking at the fact that, like I say, a lot of times when you have not been there and know the history and to know where everything started at and where we've gotten to at this point, then you could easily say that. Um, you know, that young person was not there when people were hung, people died, people were beaten, people were uh, put in jail just for us to have this right. And so it disturbs me when people say that, they don't see a change, they don't see anything, they don't see a reason why they need to vote. If just right here in Bibb County, if you don't see a reason why you need to vote, then it's something terribly wrong. And I talked about health care. He said, I got insurance on my job. I said, but think about it, sir, for the next person that you may have a friend that does not have health care. You may have a friend that does not have health care on their job. And so that alone, to me, just health care, that we're fighting for everyone to be able to have health care. And even in a situation of COVID, where people were dying, people were being hospitalized and died. And so, people say that, people are treated the same, but they are not. I promise you they are not. You're not, I've seen it all. So, I could go to the hospital with insurance and health insurance, and they may admit me. They may give me medication, but they may admit me. Someone that does not have health care, a lot of times they get prescriptions and they're sent home. People deny that. Facilities deny that, but that it's true. It's very true. Uh, our incarceration rate, we have people that are incarcerated. And then I just think about even before the district attorney that we have now came into office, we had people sitting in jail that had been sitting in jail for years, had not gone to court, had not been prosecuted or been released or charges dropped or anything. They're just sitting in jail. Their rights were being violated. It's things like that that should, it may not happen to you, but it may happen to someone that you know. So, for you to just look at yourself and not think about other people, I'm sure that everybody have someone that they know that are in all of these situations. We have to look at, I'm getting numerous complaints of about education, where school teachers are using the N word toward grammar school students. And so again, we've come a long way, but we still have to put people in place that's gonna fight for everyone, that's gonna be representing everyone, not just for the people that votes for them. I've been told that you're calling someone's name, but did you vote for that person? And I said, well, it doesn't matter whether I voted for them or not. When they accepted, when they were voted in their position, they became a representative for everyone, not just the people that voted them in. So I just think that people with these mentalities that your vote doesn't count, that they don't see a reason to vote, is because they are just living in this moment. They don't know what it took to get to this point. And I talked about that this weekend at one of the churches that I spoke at this weekend, because people don't understand. People look at the Voters' Right Act of 1965 and they just think that we got the right to vote. A law was passed for us to vote, and we just been voting ever since. That's not the case. That's not the case. So when you look at the fact that the law was passed, gave us the right to vote, why is it that every 20 years we had to go into the courts to renew our voting rights, to prove to the court that we still needed to vote, that we still should be able to still go into the be able to vote during elections? Why? People of color was the only people that had to do that. And for some reason, that's what I talked about this weekend. The church that I spoke at, there were a lot of young people. And I wanted them to know that people of color, black people, contributes a lot to this country, and not to let anyone deter them or make them think that they are less than, and that they cannot be anything that they want to be, and to make it seem like we aren't anybody. We are. We contribute a lot to this country. People may say that we don't, but we do, and there are statistics to prove that. We spend a lot of money, and we contribute a lot to this country. And so when people talk about they don't want to vote, they use all different type of excuses. But as soon as they get arrested, or as soon as something happens, then they call the NAACP. They're calling somebody. So if everything that's involved has to do with voting, your district attorney is voted in, your mayor is voted in, your governor is voted in, your the Department of Education, that person is voted in. Everything that has to do with you economically, people are voted in those positions. And so that people have a right to choose not to vote, and you can't, you only thing you could do is try to talk to them, to encourage them. But some people's mind are just made up. But my thing is, if you don't want to vote, then it's no need of calling me or calling the NAACP when something happens, because I'm saying That's one of the questions on our complaint form when you're a registered voter. Doesn't mean that we're not going to help you because you're not a registered voter. But my concern is, if you've gotten in trouble, then all of that has to do with voting. Because to me, it says if you're not registered to vote, then and you're not voting, then you don't want change. You don't want to change. So just make sure that we get out and vote, people. It's an opportunity that we have. It's not something uh, people take it for granted, and a lot of times you don't miss something until you don't have it anymore. I'm not saying that it will be taken away, but at some point we were in a fight where we were having to prove that we needed to continue to vote, and people are making it so much harder for us to be able to vote. And let me tell you something, people. If there if our vote was not important, that people would not go to the extent that they're going to keep people from the polls, to keep people from voting. People would not go to that extent. So let's just make sure that we get out to vote. We will be providing rides to the polls on election day. You can call our office at 478-745-9944. We will be providing rides to the polls. We want everyone to get out and vote. It's no excuse for people not to vote. To say that they don't have transportation, it's no excuse. It's a list came out today that we'll be providing rides to the polls on every east, south, East Baker, North Baker, West Baker. There's going to be someone that can provide rides to the polls, so it's not going to be an excuse for anyone to say that they don't have transportation to the polls. Now you got to make sure that you're in the right precinct. If you don't go and vote by November the 4th, you can vote at either one of those three places that I mentioned. If you do not vote by November the 4th, please go to your precinct on November the 8th and vote. You can go to my voters page and it will tell you your current voting precinct. It'll even give you the opportunity to print your card out. So make sure you do that if you're not for sure where you're supposed to vote, because if you get to the wrong place at 5 minutes to 7, then you're not going to be able to vote if you can't get to your right polling place in 5 minutes. Because there's no such thing now as provisional ballots. They've stopped that. They're making it harder. So, the only thing I can say is if people are not looking at the news and they're not looking at what's going on, they can see everything that's going on. They're doing everything they can to discourage people and deter people from voting. But we got to stop being predictable. We got to stop being predictable because this election that we had with the water authority, it was just ridiculous. They thought that was not important enough to get out for and vote, but it was ridiculous the number of people that showed up to vote. People, we can't sit silent on this. We cannot sit silent. Everything is at stake. Everything. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to come back to the voting, because I wanted this show mostly to be about voting today. And maybe the more I talk about it, the more people are listening, riding in their cars or whatever they're listening, and you kind of got to give a little history on voting for people to understand how important. You can't just say now that you need to vote. You got the people want to know why do I need to vote? Because we hadn't always had the opportunity to vote. 50, 60 years ago, we were not able to vote. So let me just talk about this a little bit, because there was something in the news this week the chairman of the Water Authority requested for the district attorney to do an investigation against 4 members. We don't know who those 4 members are. That have supposedly been having private meetings to see if there's a violation. So, I don't know if y'all remember earlier this year, there were some concerns about something similar happened. And I did an open record requesting requested documents of meetings that took place during the time they were having the water authority election. And so I didn't get everything that I requested. It was like a one-sided conversation that I got. I did an open record request because I felt at that time there was something going on that shouldn't have been going on as far as a violation of having private meetings being taken place. And it seems as some of the information that I received, it seemed like there are people there was Mr. Desmond Brown that was a whistleblower, that this kind of things came up. They started an investigation. To this day, we have not seen what actually happened. We don't know what law he supposedly had broken. David Cook, the previous district attorney, did an investigation, but to this date, there has been no evidence presented by him that I saw, and they've concluded their investigation, and we still haven't seen anything. And I requested information regarding that investigation, still haven't received it. Requested emails exchanges when I was concerned, and the request came down to speak about the gerrymandering, the lines being drawn to take away votes from certain candidates, and that is a concern when you take votes away from certain candidates that could make them lose an election. And basically, that's what happened. So that's why it was a concern with us. But now, I'm reading here that Chairman Sam Hart says 4 board members may have violated state open meeting laws. It says here that Chairman Sam Hart says he'll ask Maker DA Anita Howard and Chief Judge Howard Sims to help in an investigation. He says that 4 board members may have violated state open meeting laws. Hart says last week he received a formal complaint from a board member alleging that 4 other board members were holding meetings outside of the regular Making a Water Authority meeting that would be a violation of the Georgia Open Meeting Act. So that means that he wasn't included. He's the chairman of the board. He wasn't included, nor was the public included. So why are we having private meetings? Why are we having private meetings? And the chairman is not even included in the meetings. See, this is some of the things that were going on during the investigation. When I was doing the investigation, they were having private meetings among each other, and everyone not included in the meeting. Some of the board members not included in the meeting. When me even sitting in the meeting, board members would, when things came up in the meeting, they were not even aware of that. Was not even aware that things that they were getting ready to vote on had even been talked about during that meeting. So it was discussed during personal meetings. So that it is a concern now, and it was a concern then. So I'm just hoping that an investigation is done on both. It needs to be an investigation done now, and from previously, because there were meetings at that time also that were private meetings. I'm sitting in the public meeting and watching the same thing that they're saying happening now that was happening then. And so yeah, it's a very issue. It's an issue that needs to be addressed, and an investigation do need to be done. We're going to still be looking at the fact that whether the way these polls, the way these the lines were drawn, would it affect uh, the people that are running in that district, regardless of who they are, whether or not it would affect uh, them running in the district that they're running in when they drew the lines. So that is a concern. I have a message here from Maria Bryant. It says, remind the voters that if they have not changed their address, you must go to the polling place of your ID, not your new address. So again, I'm reminding to the voters that if you have not changed your address, you must go to the polling place on your ID, not your new address. Okay. So back to voting. Now, we know that Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked this weekend, and I, guess from what I'm reading, it's from someone advocate, uh, and this is a very very concern to me that it's gotten this far, where you would go into Congresswoman's home and attack her husband, and actually looking for her. It's not that serious. It's not that serious for you to go to jail. It's not that serious. And I'm just wondering what they're actually advocating for. What is the real issue? We need to think about that. We need to think about that. What is the real issue? I don't think it's about voting. I don't. I don't think it's about voting. Tell me some. Tell me, you all are listening. Tell me what you all think about the shooting in the schools. I have a silence that's bothering me today because I'm kind of talking out of my talking. I hope you can understand me. The shooting in the schools, and then we're just, people have they have the wrong idea as to why we don't want guns on the street. We're not saying that we don't want people to have guns. They people are interpreting. They're interpreting it the way they want to interpret it. And people are not saying that they don't want people to have guns, but a 16-year-old should not have an assault weapon in their bedroom. We're not saying that. We're not saying that we don't want people to have guns to protect them in their homes. That's not what we're saying. But we're having all these mass shootings in the schools, and I just don't understand how people can't come together and just see that we're just only trying to protect these children and even adults. But most of these mass shootings are in our school system. They're in the school system. They're in our schools. They're in our elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. Even now, they're at. You may go to the movies. You've heard of people getting shot at the movies, at the grocery store. There's been so many mass shootings, and then you got guns into the hands of someone that doesn't need guns. We have so many people that have mental health. Even right here in Georgia, the jail is full of people with mental health issues because they have nowhere to go. We did have an inpatient facility for mental health patients in Milledgeville, Georgia, but that was shut down years ago. That's why you have so many people walking around because you don't have an inpatient facility for these people, so where they could go and be properly diagnosed. A lot of times the kids are bullied. They're bullied in school. They don't have anybody to talk to. They don't feel like they have anyone to talk to. And then they turn to guns to rectify what they're going through. I don't uh, condone shooting. I don't condone, but we uh, killing. We have to get a handle on these guns. These guns are getting into our children's hands. People don't realize that. People don't realize that guns are people are getting guns from cars. Just they're taking them. They're stealing them from cars. They're stealing them from people's homes. And so we don't. You know, you have people actually buy guns and give them to these children. They're getting them. You got 16-year-old. What does a 16-year-old need with a gun? Why does a 16-year-old have a gun? You have children less, ages or lesser than that are walking around with assault weapons. And it's so sad that people don't understand. Well, they say they don't understand, but they do understand. But they're so hung up on the right to have a gun. Okay, there is a caller on the phone. Yes,
Yes, Miss Westbrook.
yes. Is this a caller?
Hello?
Hello. How you doing?
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can. I can hear you.
Okay. I want to speak on about thorns and the silence. If we, and I know some people don't want to do this, but if we go back to the Bible, he said that if we didn't put him first in all things, that these things would come up on us, and we got to remember that. And another thing is about the voting. I've talked with people about voting. They are getting discouraged because they can't get help from even the county people. Um, they feel like that my vote is not counting because we can't get any help. And I have had that problem myself, right
Mhm.
here, in Bill County. Seems like it, like certain people that can get help when try to get help, and
I
maybe
understand.
if they would serve our people, more people would vote.
Right. And I understand perfectly where you're coming from because I've heard that. You're not the first person that said that. We talk about state and local elections, local and state elections, and they're very important. And and most of the time we do have a lower voter turnout when it's a local election because people don't understand. But they do understand the role. Uh, they understand the role that our local elected officials hold. Right. That they don't see them in the community, and when it's certain sides of town, and that's what we were looking at, and that's what was supposed to be taking place. It's happened like that in the past where only certain communities receive assistance, receive help, even down to the roads and the streets being repaired, clean. Uh, I know exactly what you're speaking of. And so people do get discouraged when they're right here locally and they can actually see what's going on. And like I said, what I encourage people to do, we need to start showing up to each other. uh, commission a meeting, to sign up to speak, to address these issues. You have that right. You have that right to prepare, or even your commissioner. You have a representative in your community that you live in. And to me, if I was in that position, I would be having a meeting uh, every 3 months or a quarter or something with the people that I represent to find out what their concerns are, so we can take it back and see what we need to do to help the people that voted for us, that we represent. So I perfectly understand what you're saying. You're correct. So only thing I just want to say is just keep calling. If you need to speak to me after the meeting, you can contact us at 478-745-9944, and we can talk further about it if you want to explain to me exactly what you're speaking of, to pinpoint what you're talking about, and maybe we can, assist you on getting you on the right track, and, what their need help in. And do we have another call? Okay. So the lady that just called in, she talked about it. You all could hear, talked about representation, talking about certain sides in the community or receiving help, and people get discouraged about voting because they've already voted and then they don't see anything happening, and then you can't get in touch with your representative. You can't things that need to be done. They can't get any help. So I perfectly understand that's been being said and being done a long time, and so it's just back to we you have to study your candidates. The NACP does not tell you who to vote for. What we do is educate you, and we tell you what the issues are that we are working on, and then you look at your candidate and you see whether or not these candidates are have a concern, or their platform is some of the things that we all have concerns about. We don't tell you who to vote for, but what our concern is uh, for the make a bill branch is health care. That's one of my number one issues right now, is because when people do not have health insurance, they can't be treated. People either get sicker or they die, or they have to end up being on additional medication because they allowed their condition to go so far because they couldn't be treated. We have to. The United States is a country that is a rich country. They say we are. You have some of the poorest countries that have every one of their citizens have health insurance. There's no one in the United States should not have some type of health care coverage. It was just, I just prayed so hard during COVID, because I know that I had family members that did not have health care. Just was praying that they just encourage them, stay in, wear your mask, don't go anywhere with your mask. I furnished masks because I was so afraid that they would detect COVID, and then they would just be turned around and not receive the proper treatment. I've had relatives that have gone to the hospital and sent back home and died before they could get with COVID, have died uh, on the way home from the hospital, being sent back home. So, healthcare is something that's very concerning to me, because I've worked in it before. I know how people are treated when they have some type of health care. When they don't have health care, people say it all the time. When I say it again over and over, that they don't treat you any different, but they do. They do. And that's why the NACP is here. Because if you're treated different, we want to know. Because we have healthcare facilities that receive funding, uh, that receives funding And people should not be turned away uh, when they're seeking health care. Now, a lot of times they're not turned away. They just give you a prescription, write you a prescription to send you home when you probably should have been hospitalized. So that alone is enough. If I wasn't a registered voter, that would be enough for me, because I'm sure that you've had everybody's got someone in their family that does not have health care coverage. So, call in, tell me what you think. I don't want to do all the talking. I want people to call in and tell me what you think on some of these issues that we're speaking on today. I know people are preparing for trick-or-treat tonight. We need to be preparing to vote tonight, be preparing to get people out to vote. We're going to be canvassing. Want to also say if there's anyone who would like to canvass, we are paying $15 an hour to canvass. You can contact our office at 478-745-9944. If you would like to canvass, we got to get the information out. We're targeting certain areas that we know that has a lower voter turnout, especially in our state and local elections. We got to get people to the polls. We got to remind them. Some people, you just have to just push them a little bit more to get them to the polls. Some people, they don't look at television, and they don't read the newspaper. So that's why the radio shows. We know that a lot of people are riding in their cars and they're listening to the radio. If we put a door hanger on your door, sometimes we put it on the fence. If we can't get to the door, we put it on the fence. We know you got to open your fence to get in the gate. Whatever means that we need to do to make sure that you have the information so you can get out and vote, to remind you about voting. I just think about, a lot of times when I was just being born when a lot of this stuff was going on. I wasn't, in 1965, I was about 3 years old. I can remember the day Dr. King was assassinated. And I can remember some things because I was young. But a lot of times now when I look at these movies, it just brings tears to my eyes. Sometimes I don't look at these movies over and over. I can remember when the people were killed in South Carolina at the church, and we went to the funeral services there. And I can remember going to see this kind of stuff that our young folk need to know, since they sit and don't have a reason to vote. I can remember after we came from the funeral services, it might have been before we went to the funeral services, but I can remember us visiting a museum where black people were sold, and they would, stand up on whatever they had them standing on, that they would bet on them, and they were the highest bidder, the slave would be sold. So we would be sold. Our children and our parents and husband and wives would be separated. And so it was so emotional for me. They had to take me to the car. I just couldn't take it. They had to take me to the car and put me in the car. But these are the kind of things that we don't even know what the 14th Amendment stood for. This 14th Amendment was put in place for people of color, of slaves, because they characterized us as less than humans, that we were not human beings. So this is why the 14th Amendment was put in place, because of us. Don't get it. Don't get it confused. It was put in place for us. And I like I say, you can't tell people what to vote. But when you tell me that you're not a registered voter and I'm okay, if I'm not okay. But when you start saying, well, I don't, when you start explaining, then I got an issue with that because you don't even know half of the story why you should be voting. You don't even know half of the story. So if you don't see it change, and that's because you weren't here 50, 60 years ago. That's why you don't know why you need to vote. Just say you don't want to vote and don't say anything else. Because then I have to educate you then. And so, we just gotta educate our folks because they especially our young people. It's just sad, and like I say,
It's AM and FM, how you heard it in the old days.
with the number of people that are incarcerated in Georgia, uh, Georgia have more people on probation than any state in the United States. We have more people on probation, and it's because we got laws. We got these laws that are on the books, that's been on the books for years. And some of these laws we need to be challenged. I'm about to retire at the end of the year, and I'm going to be focusing on a lot of these things because giving someone 15 years probation for a nonviolent crime is ridiculous. It's only a setup for failure. You give someone 15 years and then they're going to get in trouble again. You hoping that they get in trouble. And another thing that I'm concerned about is our state court. Our state court, we should have programs that are preventive programs to help people with addictions that they have so it won't get to a felony. There's some crimes that you have to commit so many misdemeanors before it even become a felony. So why is there nothing in place in our state courts with some type of program for preventive? But see, state court makes money. That's all it's about. They make money. When people are on probation, now this is versus state Superior Court. Superior Court, when you go to, and this is the difference, when you go to Superior Court probation, they drug test you. They do it in their office. And they say that they have some type of machine, but I don't know whether that will hold up in court or not. I don't know. But the difference with state court have you go to a lab to drug test you and they make you pay for it. I am totally against that. I don't care if they are on probation. Some people are not even on probation drug related. They may have had nothing to do with drugs, but they drug test you. They make you pay for it. And I can remember having a nephew that was on probation, a state court of misdemeanor, and they wanted to drug test him. And I told him, I said, he's not to pay for that. I said, because you all are the one that want it. If you want it, you're going to do it, and you're going to do it free because you all are the one that want the drug test. They sit there somewhere to get the drug test, but he didn't have to pay for it. But they eventually started him back paying for it because I wasn't involved. But that's something that the probationist should have to pay for a drug test that you want. Some of these misdemeanors is not drug related, and you have to, most drug related misdemeanor charges is normally marijuana. And when I did my research, even marijuana charges, I saw where they mostly a lot of these charges have a obstruction of officer attached to these marijuana charges. You're not gonna tell me everybody's obstructing doing commit obstruction of officer. And so what happens is when these cases go to court, according to my research, when these cases go to court, they drop the marijuana charge because the marijuana charge, the fine is so much. It's not a large fine, but the obstruction of officer fine is more, so they get more money, giving you the charging you, convicting you with obstruction of officer. A lot of these misdemeanor marijuana charges are dismissed in order to give you the obstruction of officer where you end up paying more money. That's what my investigation showed. So if you feel a person keep coming in there with a marijuana charge, a lot of times they have addictions. And so it keeps coming in there with a marijuana charge or a shoplifting charge. Excuse me. A lot of these, a lot of people have an addiction. And not saying that the marijuana, but a lot of times people come in there with shoplifting charges. They have some type of addiction. And they have nothing in place. The only thing that they have is to make you pay out money in state court. And when I'm telling you, make a bill. If we don't wake up and start supporting the people that are fighting for you all, it's something wrong. That's why a lot of these cities and states are able to get stuff done because they have the support from their community. The people in Macon do not show up and support the people who are out fighting for them. If I call a press conference, just about everybody in Macon should be at this press conference, because if I'm calling a press conference, it's for a reason. It's to benefit somebody in this community, not myself, or not the NAACP. You have to start supporting the cause. You have to start showing up. If it wasn't for radio stations like this that get the information out, we wouldn't be able to get a lot of information out, because our television stations are not going to put certain information out there. If they don't want it known, if they're biased toward a certain, they're not going to air it. We got to start supporting people that are fighting for us, that are fighting for people, period. It doesn't matter what color you are. But if people are fighting for a cause that's affecting this community, that affects you, somebody in your family, then you need to support the issue. You need to support the cause. You need to support that organization. Because we can't do this by ourselves. We only thing we do is ask you to show up. We don't ask you to spend any money. We don't ask you to do any of that. We want you to show up. One thing that I want to say about the voting, and I'm going to get off the air. We are having a party to the polls on this Saturday. It's going to be at AutoZone. It's going to be at AutoZone on Pinona Avenue, and it's going to be starting at 12 o'clock, probably about 12 to 3. We're going to have a party to the polls. We're going to have music. We're going to have food, and we're going to have a voter registration table set up, and all of that, because we still want to register people to vote. And we're going to have some material there. I see we have a caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Miss Westbrook. This is Desmond E. Brown
Hey.
calling in.
Yes.
How you doing? Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for having this show. The NAACP is truly loved, especially by me and members of my family, and I'm grateful that you are pressing the issue of why we need to get out and vote. And what I want to encourage the listeners of your show to understand, that there is a difference between being an active voter versus a registered voter. You know, people think that just by being registered to vote, that's just like, I've done my job. Well, you've done half the job. The other part of the job is that we need you to show up to the polls and vote. And
Right.
and more particularly, I want to drive it home, and I'm asking people to pay attention to the people that's fighting for you in office, like Chairman Sam Hart at the Make Water Authority. Many of you have seen the breaking news last Friday that he is coming out asking for the district attorney to do an investigation on certain board members at the Water Authority. This is what I was blowing the whistle on during my campaign. Your rates matter. You need to vote. Water and sewer rates can go up all because of a few members on the board versus people like myself that I'm asking you to send me back there to fight for you. I mean, we can create jobs, Sister Westbrook, if we get the right board members on the board of the Make Water Authority. I mean, right now, you're paying $4.99 for stormwater utility fees, and I still have people calling in needing help because they're being told when a pipe tear up or something happens to their property, it's private. You see, you need someone on the inside that can help. And right now, in my opinion, Chairman Hart is the only one that we got left until the voters, if you all send me back, because this is serious. And lastly, please pray for him. Pray for him that God gives him strength to continue to fight. And when you have meetings for the NAACP, and when we all need to show up. And this first Thursday coming up in November, everyone who is concerned about what is going on down at the Make Water Authority, let's show up and show our support for Chairman Hart. You know, and that's all I have to say other than asking people to vote for me. But more particularly, please vote. Because you're right, Ms. Westbrook. If it wasn't for stations like WDDO and the Middle Georgia Informer newspaper, we couldn't tell our story because I just truly feel, in my opinion, the news media is biased, man. They control. We show up for a rally or we show up for a press conference, and they won't even air it.
Right.
They won't even air it. They'll suppress it. So
Twice.
it's important that we support you and the NAACP, and we support those elected officials that is fighting for us. So that's my 2 cents. I'm Desmond Brown.
Thank you so much for calling in. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Bye.
And so this is the end of our show. We thank you for listening in. Until next time, be safe and have a blessed and wonderful day. Thank you.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. DUMAS. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.